Before you listen, if you enjoy the stories and want to hear more, then please consider subscribing. Most of you listening aren't subscribed, so please take this time to subscribe. Turn on notifications so you'll never miss a story and be the first to hear. You'll also be supporting me. Thank you. The second Mom's car disappeared down the shadowy street headed to Aunt Jean's house. I felt an unfamiliar bubble of anxiety swell inside. Sure, Cassie and I had enjoyed plenty of independent nights before as seasoned latchkey kids, but something about being fully responsible for guarding the house and obeying strict rules so burglars don't get tempted made my stomach knot. I shrugged it off, refusing to ruin our rare weekend sleepover. Cassie and I cranked up Netflix, giggling over hot teen heartthrobs between messy handfuls of popcorn. The shrill screams of clueless horror movie heroines eventually lulled us into competition over who could create the more terrifying plot. Our escalating gross ideas and maniacal laughter drowned out the steady autumn rain pelting windows in the background. Later, stuffed on candy corn and scary stories, we collapsed sideways on the couch, ready to judge us a mediocre rom-com. The minute the soppy musical score started swelling, however, an unexpected sharp knock at the front door made us bolt upright in unison. I fumbled the remote, confused, glancing at the cable box clock blinking 10:17 p.m. back ominously. We weren't expecting pizza. Mom had snacks aplenty to avoid more doorbell risks. She definitely wouldn't be back this soon from the 20-minute drive either. Probably just an impatient solicitor angry about weather or something I rationalized, until several louder, more frantic pounds followed immediately after. Cassie gripped my arm white-knuckled, ominous words overlapping the increasing din. You don't think that's like an axe murderer or something, right? Your mom's rule about not opening doors scoff these true crime cases. I shook her off, trying to convince my own trembling body we were overreacting as the mystery visitor continued assaulting the entrance even harder. Lunging for my cell instead, I decided I'd humor this aggressive stranger just through the window first. Confirm it was simply some confused pizza guy or religious nut before taking any chances. Pressing my back against the living room wall parallel to the front door, I gingerly peeled back a single slat of the blinds, phone poised to dial cops if my imagination ran too wild. But the sight meeting my adjusting GS instantly confirmed this was no exaggerated fantasy spun from cheesy Netflix scripts and spiked sugar highs. There on our moonlight-bathed welcome mat stood not one but three shadowy adult figures wearing horrific bloody monster masks, aggressively jabbing at the decorative fall wreath with what appeared to be thick tree branch weapons. Fresh adrenaline flooded my veins, realizing how flimsy our decorations were and now terrifyingly simple gaining access could be for these weapon-wielding attackers, systematically testing vulnerabilities around the property under night's concealing cloak. Heart seizing, I released the blind and stumbled backwards deeper into darkness as quietly as possible. There was no innocent or rational explanation for masked and armed trespassers clearly trying to break in unseen while assumes no one was home to heroically intervene. Cassie doubled over hyperventilating in muted panic beside me, all remaining color now drained from her round cheeks. Thinking fast through the swirling terror, I silenced her building sobs against my chest in a desperate bear hug. If those sinister monsters heard indications of life inside, our fragile element of surprise, allowing precious extra seconds to think and react, would be instantly extinguished. Still clinging to Cassie with one quaking arm as an anchor, I frantically dialed 911 with my free, sweat-slicked hand just as another round of aggressive banging exploded against the shuddering front entrance. My hushed voice cracked embarrassingly several times, explaining the violently urgent home invasion situation, battering down defenses a mere doorway away from our vulnerable hiding spot, curled up paralyzed together on the floor. But the blessed emergency operator sympathetically assured extra patrol units were already scrambling our direction, lights and sirens blaring after entering our address. Just keep hiding in place quietly, she urged, gently before help could physically arrive. The endless minutes creeping by felt more like millennia, with those bloodthirsty intruders wielding weapons of unknown capacity threatening yardsticks away. Any second they could splinter through the feeble wooden barrier or circle round back, easily shattering a window or sliding glass door to gain access and stumble right upon where Cassie hugged motionless in mute dread. Just as I felt our luck might fully extinguish, sirens finally wailed deafeningly to life right out front, no longer in the tentative distance. We sobbed in stunned relief as several shout commands by police seemingly scared off the revolting home invaders for good. The following hour was a blur of answering muddled questions as more units arrived while crime techs examined doors and locks for worrying signs of tampering. Eventually satisfied the property was secured once again, officers dispersed back into the stormy night to pursue the escaped masked criminals. An unexpected force suddenly felt absent, leaving Cassie and I doubly barricaded alone again. We couldn't bear sleeping, so instead clinged together until sunrise, watching infomercials with burning, tear-soaked eyes. When Mom burst through the front door 8 excruciating hours later, she simply stood horrified and speechless as details unfolded. No amount of crushing apologies or baked goods could erase the permanent damage inflicted by those vicious strangers who remained faceless threats haunting potential nightmares. Our once cozy suburb block now carried sinister energy skulking in shadows, aiming to extinguish any remnant delusions of safety in sacred spaces. The refugee of home and innocence was forever corrupted by evil taunting silently from behind hideous masks indelibly seared across memory. Curled on the couch wearing sweats and my ratty Toy Story pajamas, I sulked watching my family bustle around getting ready for Cousin Amy's big birthday bash downtown. They kept shooting me sympathetic glances between enthusiastic conversations about face painters and party bus limos stocked with premium champagne. I sullenly stirred a steaming mug of Theraflu, irritated to be deemed too sick to attend the epic all-ages rager I eagerly RSVP'd to months prior. It's not my fault Winter decided to sweep through with raging force the very same week, gifting everyone perpetual runny noses and chest-rattling coughs. But apparently my mild case somehow qualified as bubonic plague cooties, not worth risking amidst hordes of innocent civilians and their precious broods. Whatever. After what felt like purposeful hours of dramatic farewell hugs and repeated reminders to keep doors locked with our recent rash of neighborhood petty thefts, the Overkill Brigade finally departed to revel without their parade rain cloud. Sweet, glorious solitude at last. I immediately cranked up trashy reality shows I've been binging on the DVR and set up cozy camp on Mom's plush reading chair dragged diagonally to face the TV at an optimal vantage point. But I quickly grew restless with all the boundless freedom, like that recurring dream where you discover surprise wings and soar effortlessly. I decided to indulge my legendary sweet tooth with some homemade hot chocolate, the good stuff drizzled in bourbon left over from Dad's poker night contraband. Who says only the adventurous and afflicted get all the Saturday night fun around here? I carefully poured fattening amounts of rich chocolate in my favorite oversized Grinch mug, using the festive candy cane spatula like an omnipotent goddess absent of judging gazes. After slowly stirring in tiny marshmallow beauties and a generous splash of bourbon for that Christmas morning buzz, I triumphantly raised the brimming vessel towards the ceiling with both hands in reverent toast to my brilliant all-occasion genius. That's precisely when a thunderous metallic crash abruptly exploded outside the kitchen window directly overlooking our private backyard and garden sanctuary. I instinctively dropped hold of my meticulously crafted ambrosia creation, helplessly watching hours of pampering shatter instantly across the gleaming floors in sickly sweet splashes. Hot liquid seeped rapidly into fuzzy socks rooted frozen to the unexpected auditory assault, still ricocheting sharply through marrow as my brain scrambled making sense of things. No way those deafening clangs piercing dead silence belonged to random squirrels or clumsy tree limbs alone. It took concentrated human brute force to create that level of deliberate destruction out their breaching house borders. I cautiously peered up over the sudsy sink basin outside into ominous darkness, dread sinking straight to my toes, now soaked in ruined hot cocoa dreams. A large, shadowy figure dressed head to toe in black was clearly visible despite dim lighting, using mighty shovel swings repeatedly against our poor, defenseless wooden garden shed tucked privately in the far corner. They were strategically angled away so identifying facial features remained masked from view, but the aggressive swinging gestures growing rapidly in fury left little question sober intentions were absolutely afoot on my vulnerable watch with zero witnesses to deter this brazen criminal act. Panic flooded every cell and rational thought as fight or flight debate tore through veins like lava. Were more villainous partners in crime surely lurking nearby under equally concealing attire waiting to ambush should I make any rescue attempts? Our phone line was still disconnected after recent storms zapped electricity, eliminating the police reinforcements entirely at this point. And who knows, its shrill shrieking might further enrage this hostile trespasser rather than startling them off the property. Heart throbbing near deafening levels, desperate impulse finally won over frozen logic. I instantly flicked on our exceptionally bright exterior security lights adorning the entirety of both house and yard. Hopefully pure blinding luminescence alone would startle this secretive shed burglar into fleeing faster than interest in sticking around investigating triggers. Holding breath I didn't realize was trapped in aching lungs, I observed the chaotic scene exploding outside with tangible, choking fear. Just as quickly as the resounding metal sequence initiated this nightmare, formerly undetectable footsteps were audibly pounding the earth and escaped now too. Breathless and dizzy with adrenaline, I watched tall grasses violently part where phantom figures retreated rapidly towards the wooded ravine lining the rear fence border. The last distorted rustling faded unceremoniously into stillness within seconds despite pounding eardrums struggling to regain standard rhythm and awareness. I spent the remainder of alone time triple bolting doors, closing dark curtains to deter worse fates, and willing families' joyous return sooner through sheer mental strength. All traces of previous contentment and security perished swiftly as so often cruelly occurs without warning in the clutches of criminal violation. Not even the allure of spiked hot chocolate or of my plush throne could resurrect fragile innocence. Lost learning monsters truly do invade our once sleepy world unseen, waiting to shatter more than sheds with vile intents unknown. I still vividly remember the first time I was left truly home alone. It was back when I was just 10 years old, carefree in my innocence. Dad stopped by the house one Saturday afternoon after running errands to let Mom know he had forgotten a few essential ingredients for the fancy French meal he volunteered to cook that evening as an anniversary surprise gesture. Always eager to impress his culinary queen, Pops insisted whipping back out real quick solo to grab the missing shallots, imported rosemary oil, and other mysteriously exotic items I couldn't pronounce from the gourmet market across town before Mom returned herself from the salon. Being utterly lost when it came to food preparation beyond basic sandwiches and juice boxes, I was deemed utterly useless as a shopping helper. So I happily agreed to hold down the fort with strict instructions not to open doors for strangers, operate the stove unsupervised, or engage in dangerous stunts like sock surfing down the polished foyer steps. You know, all the thrilling shenanigans only tempting and available to latchy kids once authority figures cleared the premises. What was originally pitched as a swift 30-minute tops round-trip grocery run somehow dragged into nearly 2 endless hours after an unforeseen car accident on the freeway brought traffic to a dead standstill. At only 10 years old, home for the very first time, truly solo without distraction of cartoons or siblings, restlessness soon fogged the initial novelty sheen. I had already exhausted every flavor snack packet, transformed couch cushions into an epic hobbit village, and belly flopped repeatedly onto every bed, trying in vain to combat stiffness. Just as boredom threatened permanent brain damage, my straining ears suddenly detected an unexpected sequence of faint noises drifting from somewhere down the long hallway branching off towards my distant bedroom. Instantly cautious but curious, I muted the obnoxious sitcom reruns and tiptoed tentatively away from the comforting family room glow towards the foreign sounds, praying the hen secretly wished mass chaos into existence, simply through lack of structured scheduling. Pressing deeper down the shadowy corridor as the odd sounds steadily amplified in frequency and urgency, goosebumps spidered out rapidly across every inch of my squirming skin, suddenly hyper-aware of actual vulnerability present in this scenario. Maybe this was exactly how all those hapless babysitters in Netflix horror movies felt before meeting their gory, untimely ends. Here I was investigating mysterious noises in the dark without adult backup or any survival skills beyond some questionable self-defense tactics from my Wii boxing avatar. Realistically, if there was an intruder or poltergeist present in my intimate home space now and determined to inflict harm, what fighting tactics could a lanky tween truly attempt before succumbing to vicious inevitability? By the time I pinpointed the odd sounds erupting definitely behind my closed bedroom door just steps ahead now, there was no denying the undeniable any longer. Someone or something was definitely moving stealthily around with periodic thudding footsteps, followed by longer stretches of weighted creaks and groans from the dated wooden floors. every minuscule hair follicle from head to toe instantly elevated in dread realization. There was absolutely no rational reason for such concentrated sounds of shifty movement to be transmitting from my secure private inner sanctum while home utterly alone. We had no pets. No frightened siblings were harbored inside seeking my protection either. That left only utterly horrifying, unprecedented supernatural or true crime explanations, neither particularly promising nor reassuring. Despite every primitive self-preservation impulse now scurrying at my frozen feet, to sprint back towards familiar front rooms, doused in comforting daylight, morbid fascination simply couldn't resist creeping the final few inches forward until pupils fully registered the source of chaos through inches of wood. Bracing for confirmation of some sinister living nightmare about to alter life permanently, I hesitantly pressed one quivering eye flush against the keyhole itself, utterly unprepared for any reality waiting maniacally on the other side. But the anticlimactic view me my peephole perspective almost made having a full-blown triple bypass meltdown equally terrifying. For not a single hint of menacing movement or matter could be detected inside the entirety of my very average 10-year-old domain visible from this limited vantage point. Everything sat meticulously undisturbed and arranged exactly the way my obsessive cleanliness preferred. No signs of human life willing itself visible besides my own nervous exhales fogging up tightly held vision. The only remaining proof anything amiss recently transpired behind that barrier at all was the erratically loud thumps and dragging sounds assaulting innocent silence mere moments prior like a sadistic trickster. I wanted desperately to chalk the entire marathon ordeal up to hyper-imagination spawned from too many unsupervised SpongeBob episodes, melting fragile brain cells. Surely restless legs had carried perceptions to exaggerated dimensions in predictable juvenile fashion, but some deeper gut inkling wouldn't allow me to simply shrug off the vivid auditory encounter and memory seared so concretely now in cortex. Something or someone truly had occupied the heart of my private space without invitation or explanation in those agonizing minutes lost forevermore, and the lack of tangible proof either direction in reality felt infinitely more unsettling of fate. I practically flew back towards the familiar family room in record speed once limbs regained basic functioning skills again, flinging myself dramatically into Dad's sturdy recliner chair just as he returned laden with grocery sacks and understandable confusion at the welcome tour of frantic footsteps pelting room to room. Through broken sobs, I revealed everything that had transpired in his brief but cruel absence, each related detail tightening the lines of worry across his normally tranquil face as well. We conducted several rigorous room inspections together before he begrudgingly surrendered to my pleas of staying by my quivering side the remainder of the night. Endless cups of pot cocoa and laughter infomercials replacing planned anniversary magic instead. But even Dad's comforting logic and mighty bear hugs couldn't fully shake the lingering sense I'd forever be marked by life's sinister shadows from that pivotal first alone encounter on. Like some invisible target etched permanently deep by ghosts or monsters, I'd accidentally let glimpse my precious world turn suddenly monstrous, waiting eagerly to finish mental games begun someday. Thanks for listening in. If you like these stories and want to hear more, then please subscribe and like and support this new channel. We have more stories for you to listen to.